Welcome, everybody, to our latest episode on self care and being a new parent. Today, we'll have the amazing Carol. We'll have Diamond, who's a service user of Parents in Mind, the Mothers Project in Newham. And also, if you're happy and you know it, and you hear a couple of claps, don't worry, that is just Righteous, Diamond's son, just playing around in the studio.
Thank you, Imran, for introducing us. I'm really excited to speak to Diamond today, who comes to some of our sessions. You use the WhatsApp group, you use the one-to-one session. You've got one-to-one coming up, and then you do the groups as well. So it'll be really good just to hear a little bit about yourself, Diamond.
So, yes, my name is Diamond. I'm 25, just turned 25. I joined Parents in Mind when I was, I think just a little bit before, when I was pregnant, I believe, when I was 23. I started to get a bit more involved when baby Righteous was here, when he was about 3 months, 4 months old. Got more involved.
And what about your son?
So Righteous is 14 months now. He's just at the stage where he's very, very active. So when he comes to the groups, he's just very lively and playful. It's been a journey, but I do like this stage at the moment where he's starting to get a bit more interactive. He's starting to come into himself a bit more, So it's been interesting. Yeah.
Me and Christina really like seeing you the groups and Righteous, and just seeing how he connects with other people, and also you're also more than willing to share.
Yeah.
And this is why we're happy to have you on today, just to get your perspective on self-care. And with self-care, I know it looks different for everyone, but just really want to hear what it was like for you from when you were pregnant, how that might have changed through the first early stages, like the 6 weeks, sometimes actually feels like a 6-month fog. And then, as you said, up to now, 14 months, where he's come into his own. Is that the same for you?
Well, for me, self-care is all about how I feel physically, mentally, all of that. And I think what's changed from before till now is kind of time. I have kind of less time now to kind of navigate, self-care basically. But it's kind of been the same in terms of, no, it's not been the same actually. Let's backtrack. So before I was pregnant, self-care looked like my hobbies. So I was singing, I was joining new classes, like stretching classes, and because I'm big on community. That kind of makes me feel quite whole, like speaking to people and connecting with people and stuff. So I also swim. I've also do swimming. I've also had a social media, like a social media presence on TikTok doing plus size fashion. I'm also into makeup. So all of these things I was kind of doing before to kind of develop myself and come into myself, learn about myself. And that was really important to me. Family time, connecting with family. I had a partner at the time. So all of these, like maintaining my relationships and things like that was self-care for me. During pregnancy, it was all about educating myself on what this new chapter is going to be like. I am a first-time mom, as I mentioned before. So I was a first mom in my friendship group. I didn't really have a lot of people to educate me on kind of motherhood. I also lost my own mom. So I feel like I had to, like a lot of education I learned through TikTok, I'm not going to lie. But it was really important for me to know, like be in the know of what was going to happen, in terms, just about how I feel, what is to be safe, how to keep the baby. You get all this information from like the midwives and the doctors and kind of family opinions and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, how do I navigate this for myself? So yes, self-care was educating myself on pregnancy, how to be safe. I'm a plus size girl as well. So I was high risk, quote unquote, high risk. So it was important to know how to take care of myself as well. I had to kind of keep myself on my feet, to keep the blood circulating and things like that. Yeah, I continued swimming. I've been a swim teacher for 4 years, so swimming's always been part of my life for quite a long time. Really enjoy swimming, and that really helped me in pregnancy as well. And then postnatal self-care, that's been all the things that I've kind of said, but it's now juggling with quote like a toddler, I guess. Self-care has been, for me, trying to put myself first. It's kind of been realizing that I'm still Diamond before righteous. I'm not just a mum. I'm not just Righteous's mum, because when a child comes into the world, it's everyone else kind of puts him before you, your child, and then you kind of have to put yourself, but you're like, okay, what about me, kind of thing, especially inside, sometimes you don't want to say that out loud, but what about me, like even when I first gave birth, literally when he came out, like I was kind of forgotten about, kind of thing, like everyone was just holding him, and sorry, I feel like I'm going on a tangent a little bit, I don't know.
What is self-care? To be honest, self-care is like a practice of nurturing your physical, emotional, and mental well-being through intentional actions that promotes balance and resilience. As a new parent, self-care takes on a deeper meaning. That's because you have to have the ability to care for your child, which is closely tied to your own health and your energy. Self-care as a new parent involves recognizing your needs, the demands of parenthood, whether it's taking breaks, asking for help, staying hydrated, or even finding moments to rest and reflect. It's about showing yourself compassion and acknowledging that prioritizing yourself, your well-being, benefits you and your baby. Introducing self-care as a new parent, it can be tricky because no plan kind of goes to plan. As a new parent, creating a plan that fits your lifestyle while also being adaptable to unpredictable nature of being a parent. You can do it by scheduling small, manageable goals. You've probably heard of the SMART goals. Self-care activities into your routine, like such as 10-minute mindful sessions, weekly walks. And you've got to be flexible with your plans, understanding that routines may shift depending on your baby's needs. I think it's important to kind of identify the potential barriers, the lack of time, support, and addressing them involving your partner, family, trusted friends. Also, by setting SMART goals, you have to make sure the self-care feels achievable, such as committing to maybe, for example, one of Parents in Mind session, committing to it and sticking to the plan and not the mood, as they say. These sessions can provide a supportive space to reflect, connect with others, and also prioritizing your well-being. Making self-care an integral part of your parenting journey is important.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned about SMART goals quite a bit. I know maybe some people know, some people don't. I'm going to give an example of one of my SMART goals that I did when I was struggling, and I wanted to just start to exercise a bit more, because before pregnancy, I was active. I was a sports player, did so much. And then with babies, there was no way I was going to go back into rugby. There was no way I was going to do certain sports. So SMART, if anybody doesn't know, stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or relevant, and time bound. So for me, one of my main things is that I wanted to start exercising. But we're having two little ones. I could just barely brush my teeth just to get them out of bed and sort them out first. So I just decided to get the mat out. So specifically, I just wanted to have the mat out so I can lie down and be on the mat for at least 3 minutes. That was my specific goal. Whether it was stretching, but I was on the mat. Then measurable, I was going to measure it by, I've been on the mat at least once a week. That was my bare minimum. And then it was achievable because I felt that I wasn't setting myself up too high of a standard. It's realistic, but also relevant to me, especially knowing I'm someone who's quite active, and being active was quite important to me. And time bound, I was going to give myself just a month to try this. If it didn't work, at least I've tried it and I can move on. How about you, Imran? Do you have an example of self-care, how you might have changed when your wife was pregnant to afterwards, or just what you did?
I think I'm a type of person, I like to just, you know, get some downtime, meaning watch um, funny stuff on Netflix or something that doesn't really stress me or think about things that are stressful. And I think sometimes it's about half the battle is understanding yourself, understanding your body, because as men we think we're the whole Avengers in one. Like we tend to do so many different roles and we take on so many different tasks, not knowing that what it's doing to us physically and mentally. And for me, I found it hard to say that I'm tired and I want to sleep. And sometimes I used to just crash out. I used to just say to my wife, "Babe, I can't. Like, I need to go sleep," and she'll understand. But sometimes it shouldn't get to that point where I need to, you know, crash out and get to that point where I can't keep my eyes open. I should kind of like schedule that in or just not do too much, if that makes sense. And then I kind of carried that into after the pregnancy. When I feel I really need to go sleep, I will have a little nap if needs be. Also, I would say I think it's funny because my wife said I think she saw something on Instagram, like a social media post, and it just said like sometimes your partner feels that they have to always be doing something when the other person comes into the room or just in general. And she asked me, do I feel like that? And I was like, yes, yes. And she goes like, why? I don't know why. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's funny because a lot of the time I've done like like say if I've done dishes or the cookie or cleaning or done whatever, and she'll catch me when I'm sitting down. And then sometimes I feel like I need to justify it, and it's just maybe my own thinking, and I think that's the wrong way of thinking it. Like I've done what I needed to do, and it's okay to have that little moment. And something when the weather was better, I was doing it in the morning. I would go downstairs into the garden with a cup of tea, a biscuit, and I would just sit there. And that was my time. Sometimes my wife will come to sit down, we'll have a little thing, but I think she realized as well that's his time. So I'll spend 5 minutes or whatever, and then I'll go, kind of thing. That's what she kind of got from the thingy, and I think that's quite, good. And she was able to recognize that that was my time, and the same thing. I need to recognize the space that or the time that she needs to recharge herself too. So it's important to understand each other.
Yeah, that's really good. About part of it is the main part is the battle in the mind, and often people don't always feel that they are worthy of self-care. So thanks for sharing that.
Co-parenting has its own dynamics and has its own ups and downs, has its good, points, has its bad. But the boundaries, you have to set, even as I would say the traditional family of two parents could be one thing, and then being a co-parent has its own dynamics. So what would you say is a boundary that is important to you and important for your own mental well-being?
Yeah, I would say as the primary caregiver of Righteous is kind of knowing when to delegate, when to ask for help, but also when to kind of say no. Just being firm, trusting in myself enough to know when to be firm with my decisions. Because I feel like when you're a mum, when you have a child, everyone's kind of involved with a lot of opinions and decisions in raising a child. But as a mum, it's really important for me to know when to say no and know when to be firm in my decisions, in knowing what is right for my child.
Yeah, so Diamond mentioned a lot of things about asking for help, and starting self-care is not always easy. But I think one of the things that makes it not easy is if you don't know how to say no or set boundaries. Because as you mentioned, that you end up feeling so bad that you want to do more even though you've done enough. So just about boundaries, it's quite important to know your limit. It's really key to know who's around you that you can rely on. I know not everybody does have that, but I know that when people have come to Parents in Mind in our sessions, they've learned different tips of people. They've connected to other fathers, other parents that helps them start to even realize who they can ask and rely on and start to think outside the box. But then also with saying no, knowing that no is a complete sentence and it's fine. So with the self-care, as you said, this is my 5 minutes. That's fine. This is my time on the mat. That's enough. And when you start to be aware of what boundaries or lack of boundaries you have, it can make self-care a little bit more less pressured and a bit more enjoyable.
I think for me, boundaries is about being aware of your limitations, your ability to do stuff, and expectations as well. Because I was talking to Diamond about this, and this was off camera, and we're just talking about we sometimes we put our not just our trust, but we put our faith in someone to do something. Maybe they didn't carry it out right, or our expectations were two different things, and sometimes that can be an issue too. I think it's about learning that some people are trying, and just accept it for whatever it is for them trying. Maybe the end result wasn't perfect, but it's a thought that counts. And it's the same thing with us. Like, it is okay to say no, and sometimes it's important for your own self-care to say no. And I think it's not something to get angry about as well. I think that's it draws a bit of anger when someone's all the time used to saying yes, and then now they have to say they're saying no. I think sometimes you've got to remember, everyone's going through something, and them saying no is about them protecting themselves, maybe even protecting you. So no is not a bad thing, and I think we need to say more of it.
You just mentioned one thing about boundaries is more about you putting boundaries on yourself, protecting yourself, is not thinking about it as a punishment for someone. It's about you. So yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Imran. Thank you, Diamond. We really, really enjoyed listening to your perspective on self-care. Thank you for listening to our episode. Hopefully that was something that really gave you something to think about. And I'm gonna just end it on what my mum always says to me when I resist self-care. She says, Carol, don't be a martyr. You're no use to anyone if you're sick and burnt out. So make sure you put some self-care practice in place.